Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Adams. You are attending a webinar on the WCAI research opportunity, Predicting Life Changes from Financial Activity. My name is Ben Adams. I'm the research director at WCAI. On the phone with me is Robert from our data sponsor. Robert, if you'd like to say hello.
Howdy, guys.
And thanks. And also is on the phone with us, Tom. Tom, can you say hello?
Hello.
Thanks. Just a quick couple of notes before we get started. This webinar is intended for researchers and scholars only. It should not be published or presented without permission from WCAI. If you have questions, please feel free to email either of those emails you see on the screen. I should also make a note that this webinar, the slides, will be available after the webinar, as well as a recording if you'd like to watch it again. This is a call for proposals. The data set is being made available for research. If you'd like to have access, you need to submit a proposal. We will be talking about the details of the application process at the end, and we'll be talking about questions that the research sponsor wants to have answered. However, you shouldn't be limited to your own, to their questions. You should feel free to submit your own questions as well. One final note before we get going. The sponsor is a Fortune 500 financial services company. While the awarded research teams will be introduced directly to the company, the sponsor must never be named in any publication or presentation, and the data is completely de-identified to not have only anonymous information in it completely. So that's our housekeeping things out of the way. Let's kind of move in and discuss some more. The sponsor is a direct-oriented financial services company focused on its customers and extremely knowledgeable about all of them. The company provides a wide array of financial products and services, including checking, money market, mutual funds, different kinds of insurance, and real estate and related services. There's very, very few physical store locations. The vast majority of the interaction is done online or through the call center. This allows us to have a great opportunity for a unique and rich data set. The company offers 25 different product categories, and you can see here a kind of example of the different kinds of products that are there. The majority of the customers own products in more than one category. So there's an opportunity to look at cross ownership and promotion. So the key research area that the sponsor is interested in looking at is life event changes. So what do we mean? So here's an example of a customer, Anne. Anne, at some point in her life, purchases a product from the sponsor. At some point later, after she purchases a product, Anne might change careers or relocate to another part of the country or to another country, or she might get married or some other major life event. However, the company doesn't necessarily know about it until she might call and interact with the call center. And at that point, the call center reps are trained to ask, oh, you're looking at a mortgage. You might be, are you relocating, or have you gotten married, or things like that. And the career event or the life event is recorded. However, if Anne changes and doesn't notify the company immediately, how can they detect that the life change has happened? Similarly, is there an opportunity to predict? If Anne opens a checking account, for example, and then over time she makes deposits, transfers, withdrawals, other interactions with the checking account, is there a way to use her financial activity and account behavior to predict if and when she will make a major life transition in the future? So the key research questions that we're looking at are accurately predicting life changes before they occur or detecting life changes that have already happened. So let's look at the data that will enable you to answer these research questions and others. It is all the touch points between the customers and the company for 100,000 customers over a 17-month window. Some of those customers have these recorded life changes, such as career change, marriage, or home purchase, some sort of significant life change. And we have really complete, comprehensive information, including demographics, their product portfolio over time, the opportunity, all of the different contacts, including website, mobile, and call center, and what they were doing at the time. But we'll talk more about that in just a moment. A lot of questions frequently about how is this data collected. It is collected over a variety of different channels. We have, whether it's smartphones or tablets, devices that are interacting. It could be call center directly interacting, or IVR, the interactive voice recording. Press 1 for to deposit, 2 to withdraw, or things like that. And then website visits and direct marketing. The data really breaks down into 3 different general areas: contacts and interactions, that when they call or when they go to the website; their product ownership history, that portfolio of products over time; and direct marketing interaction between the customer and the company. Layered on top of those 3, however, is the customer and the customer interaction. So let's first talk a bit about what the customer data is. Again, as I said, there are 100,000 customers who were active in the company as of January 1st, 2012. They were polled in 2 different random samples. The first sample, 25,000, were customers who were selected because they made a life transition that was recorded in the data during the 17-month observation window. The other sample, 75,000 customers, were selected again because they were active, and then they may or may not have made a life transition, and if they made a life transition, it may or may not have been recorded in the data. Just a little bit of kind of illustration about what the data looks like. The median age of the customer is 32, and the tenure with the company is about 8 3/4 years. Although you can see from this slide that the majority of the customers have been with the company for less than 10 years, or 10 years or less. And this shows that there are some people who have had quite a long relationship with the company. The majority of the customers come from one of 5 different industries. The data, and you can see here the distribution of those 5 industries. And the data further includes information about the subcategory of industry, their income level, their job title. And I should point out that the customers, most of the customers work in Industry A. And this is again, because of the nature of the relationship with the customers, this company knows a lot about who they are and what they're doing. We also have income information, and we can see the average customer salary is in the data set, and you can see that the majority of the customers are between $20,000 and $40,000 a year, while there are some at higher and a few at lower. I think that these are buckets, so I'm pretty sure that there aren't people who have 0 income. I think that's 0 to 10 a year. So that's the information that we have about the customers. Now let's take a look. Actually, before we go on to look at customer and interaction, there's a question from the audience. The question is the industry masked? So I'll go back to that slide again. Those who are awarded the data will be able to see the names and information of the industry. But it is masked for this webinar. So again, those who get the data will be able to see more detail, get the specific information, but it is anonymized for purposes of this webinar. Okay, so let us move into the next set of the data. So that was information about the customer. We're now going to talk a bit about the contacts and interactions portion of the data. We have over 25 million interactions recorded in the 17-month window. The data includes the date, the time to the millisecond, the direction of the contact, whether it was inbound or outbound, the channel, including all those things that I mentioned before, phone, tablet, a computer, telephone, IVR, and so on. We also have what was the purpose of the transaction. In the company parlance, we use the term business process. What were they trying to do? And then depending on channel, we also have details about the device they used, who was it who actually called, was it the account holder, was it the spouse, was it an agent, and so on. And if it was text related, we have the actual content of the SMS text. There are 15 different categories of interaction channels. They fall into 3 broad umbrellas: mobile, internet, call center, and there's a few that are labeled as other. An example of an other is fax. So you can see that the majority of the interaction is done via mobile, although internet and call center are both equally strong. As I mentioned before, in addition to the interaction channel, we also know what they're doing, this business process. Here's some examples of what a business process might be. For example, transferring funds to and from an account, making a deposit from their mobile home, requesting an ID card, updating their personal information. All of these are business processes. And in fact, there are quite a few different business process categories. Here is I guess you also almost might say it's a Mandelbrot set of the different choices. The top ones are listed. The number one dominating all others is inquire deposit account details. And Robert, I'd like to just ask you real quick, can you explain what inquire deposit account details is and why it might be so much larger than all the others?
Yeah, guys, it's balance check. Just a lot of people who have bank accounts want to know what their balance is. So they spend they end up seeing that a lot. Other reason for it is people can customize their homepage, and so they could just have this set up on their homepage. So maybe every single time they log in the account that this is they'd be seeing it. So
great, thank you. You can see that there's others, and there's about 20 that are kind of larger, and their names are listed here. We had a question from the audience. Do we have the content of the emails inbound or outbound? Unfortunately, we do not. We only have the record, the context or the content of SMS text messages. However, again, everything is tied with a business process, so we know that they sent an email requesting an insurance quote or trying to apply for a mortgage or things like that. So we have the business process, but not the actual content of the email. We have a count of digital contacts by week. So here we can see over time the internet and mobile activity in the 17-month window. It is perhaps shows, we see that there's similar interaction. The peaks and valleys are similar between the two, but over time you can see that they're a little bit divergent. I guess more and more people are using mobile. And if we look at in the call center, you can see the comparative call center by week over the window. We had another question from the audience, and this is a question, Robert, for you. The question from the audience is, what kind of people are there that have zero salary? We saw in that previous slide that breaking down by compensation buckets that there were some people who made $0 to $10,000 a year. Do you service folks who are at the very low end of the compensation spectrum?
Well, in this economy, guys, we shouldn't be that surprised with the people not making any money. Sorry. No, you have plenty of people who are students who may not necessarily make a salary, or sorry guys, but there's also people who have bank accounts that they are underneath their parents who might be on this thing, and if that's the case, they may still be listed as zero salary. But it's probably pretty infrequent. I guess we could have folks that we just simply have no way of determining what their salary would be. But
okay.
That usually ends up as NA. But yeah.
Okay. It wasn't necessarily zero salary also, because that was a bin or a bucket for the 0 to 10 range.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. So we mentioned before about these business processes. A single contact might involve multiple business processes. For example, on a single phone call, you might check your balance, transfer funds, and pay a bill all in the same telephone call. But also, multiple contacts could be involved in a single business process. For example, if you apply for a mortgage, that might involve checking something on your cell phone, calling into the call center, and entering some information online. So there is this multiple relationship between contacts and business processes, and that is recorded in the data. So that's the information about the contacts and interactions. Now let's take a look at the product ownership history. So we have a complete picture of each customer's product portfolio over the 17-month window. Customers own an average of 4.25 products each, and there are products, the products in the data set have on average 10,000 customers in the sample. I should like to point out at this point that we know that a customer has a product, but we don't know the detail of that product. For example, they might have a checking account. We do not have account balances. They might have a credit card, but we do not have credit limit. We just know the portfolio, not the detail. So here is that slide that I showed at the beginning of the different kinds of the 25 or so different product categories. Here are the the top 5 listed by customer count. And you can see that automobile insurance is the biggest with 54,000 customers or 55,000 customers. And information, you can see the others that are listed. We have a couple of questions about the detail of the transactions. I should also point out at this point, if you are asking questions and you don't hear us answer it on this webinar, don't worry. We will respond to all questions via email as quickly as we can. Early next week will be when we respond to them all. Every question will be answered. So we have a question from the audience. And Tom, I'm going to ask this question of you. The question is, can they, as researchers, see the details of spending habits in this data set? The details of where customers are spending money on their credit or debit cards?
I don't believe that detailed information was provided as far as like the location.
But we can see that they pay, for example, they paid their credit or debit, or they paid their credit card bill. That information is in the data set.
Yeah. Yes.
Right, but we can't see. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys. This is Robert. We might be able to get down to the store or the zip code or something like that where the thing was spent, but I don't believe for this project we can go down into what they were purchasing.
Okay. But and as the data stands, Their
As it stands right now, we don't have it. Yeah.
Right. And okay, so we do not see that, for example, they bought something at Walmart. We just know that they had a credit card at the time, month to month.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see over the 17-month window, most customers own products in 2 or more categories. Actually, 86% of our sample own 2 or more categories. We have one special flower who owns 18 different products in 18 different categories. I believe, Robert, you suggested that might be the CEO of the company. Who knows? We don't know details on who the person is. But again, people tend to have more than one product. We do see portfolio changes over time. About 70% have 1 or more products during the entire 17-month window, but there are a good number of customers who open and close products within the observed window. You can see those at the left. So there were, it looks like, a little over 200 who opened and closed an account or a product in some period for 12 months. They had it open for 12 months. However, obviously, some people opened outside the window or closed outside the window. We do not have that information. We only have what was their portfolio during the 17-month window. We can also see that over time, when somebody purchased a product, we see this kind of change over time when people are opening. I should point out that we use the word purchased a great deal of the time, but it may be purchased doesn't necessarily mean purchased a physical product. It could mean enrolled in, it could mean started, it could mean initiated. There's all sorts of different verbs that you might be able to use, but the company generally uses the word purchase to indicate the start of a new relationship or a new account. All right, so that is about the product portfolio. That is the information. Next, we'll talk about direct marketing. But before we do that, we have some questions. One question, and I think I will answer this. What type of or how many life events is the company interested in forecasting? I think the answer, and Robert, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that any life events that can be detected in the data set would be interesting to tell. We're not restricting it to any particular type, but those who are awarded the data will need to investigate which ones they think they can predict.
That's correct.
Yep. I think there are a couple of other questions. What is this one? And obviously we don't have this information at hand, but in your experience, Robert, kind of roughly, what is the normal time lag between the occurrence of a life event and the recording of that event, if it is recorded at all?
I'm going to talk to Tom real quick.
Hey, well, it really depends on the life event. Some of the life events happen in the moment, and then some of the life events we know about before the life event, and some of them afterwards. And what we're really trying to come across or come about with some of this is to try to get really far ahead of the life events. Whether it is a move or they want to live someplace else, buy a house or something like that. Knowing about it 30 to 60 days ahead of time isn't as beneficial as knowing about it 6 months ahead of time. Does that help?
I think that's exactly right.
And just also to answer another question I saw come up, the data is at the customer level.
Yes, we have exact. So the question was, is the data aggregated or do we get it at the customer level? This is at individual customers. They are all uniquely identified across the data set, and so you can see that someone, the person ID number 7, who owned this particular portfolio, had these contacts over time. So we have the specific and detailed information about each individual customer. I'm not sure if there are additional questions. I think we're ready to move on. So we see the direct marketing is the last piece of the data, or the last section of the data. So we have addressable inbound and outbound marketing. The company knows who the specific marketing is tailored towards. There is no generic or broadcast marketing information in here. So billboards and radio ads are not included in this. We do the outbound marketing is specifically targeted to customers. It is not sent out randomly. However, the selection criteria for those marketing materials is not included in the data set. It is not available and will not be part of this data set. There are 36 different marketing vehicle categories. We'll look at those in just a moment. And within the 17-month observation window, the average customer had just over 2 marketing exposures per month. Oops. So there we go. Marketing exposures by month. You can see that there are kind of pulses, but there are no months that have 0. But again, this is all marketing exposures, not particular ones. And if we go here, marketing contacts by category, the overwhelming dominant one is website product store visits, inbound marketing opportunities. And Robert, actually, could you explain this a little bit more, just so we understand what the website product store visits might be?
Sure. Tom is running back and forth to the mute button on the phone. The website product store visits are essentially it's the place that you can apply or open or enroll for one of the products. We call it a store simply because it's the place where you could buy something. It's nothing fancier than that. It just happens to be on the web. If they were on the phone, we wouldn't necessarily call it the store because it's just a person that opening the application for you.
But the idea is that that's an opportunity to market to the person. So if I'm in the market, say for automobile insurance, I go to the automobile insurance storefront on the web, and that's an opportunity to market to me. And so that's recorded.
It's underneath the home page. It's in the I sound like talking from the websites from the 90s. It's in the tree of underneath the home page. But yeah, that's where it lives. It's underneath the home page. There's something that you'd go to aside from the home page and actually look at the attributes of a product, and you'd be able to apply for it there. And it's also a place where we can show you other products. So if you're interested in this, you might also like. Got it.
Great. Thank you. I think we have some more questions. This is a great question from the audience. And again, Robert, I'm going to ask you, were there any major or significant changes in the functionality or design of the mobile or internet channel during the data period? For example, was there a release of a new mobile app, or was there dramatic changes in the website in the 17-month window that we're looking at?
So on the website, that's easy. There was one major change, and it's easy enough for us to give you the date of that. On mobile, gosh, it just changes a lot. It's just we're kind of in the we're at an interesting place on the mobile J curve, S curve, whichever one you want to say for mobile. So yeah, there's more changes more frequently with that. But we've got the dates of the changes. They're not impossible to find.
But there was a mobile app, a mobile channel that existed prior to January 1st, 2012.
Oh, absolutely. So the app existed the app has existed for quite a long time.
There wasn't an introduction of the mobile app.
No, there wasn't a new app. We have new versions of the app that came out during that time. We had a period of time where we had the app, and then we added additional functionality to the app after that, and then I think we added the ability to show some ads on the app after that. But as far as major releases, those would be the 3 big major releases.
Okay, and you can get us those dates. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So here's another strategic question from the audience. Can you describe your customer retention strategy, and do you do anything to lost customers? I suppose they mean, but not do you torture them, but do you? What's your strategy for trying to regain or communications with lost customers?
Sure. Well, so on the describing customer retention strategy, a lot of that's proprietary, so I don't want to give it away because we're really good at it. But on the high level, obviously this is going to be one of the things that we're looking at with this is, can we predict folks who we need to spend more time on retaining? And then what we do to lost customers, they're essentially still in our database, and we still market to them based on profiles. But we don't want anyone to leave. We want everyone to come back, even if they have left. So we spend a heck of a lot of time trying to win them back.
Okay.
And those are in the. We basically have that in the data that they would be looking at in the marketing data.
Okay.
So there's going to be people who will get marketing contacts after they have left.
This is another question about marketing. Again, do you have mass marketing besides direct marketing, and what kind of it is there? I'll answer the first part of the question. Yes, there is other mass marketing, but again, that data right now is not included in the data set. But can you, Robert, just kind of mention a few channels that that the company uses for mass marketing?
Sure. TV, radio, print, billboard, as well as digital, so display and search.
But if you had somebody click through on a display and search, that's recorded in the database, in the data that's presented.
Yes, if they make it all the way into the website, yeah, we've got something on that. So that's a little bit more like direct in that sense. But
okay. And there's a bubble on this slide that, so in addition to website product store visits, email, company magazine, and these search things that we just talked about, there's one that's labeled brand equity. Robert, could you explain just a little bit more about what the brand equity as marketing is in here?
Sure. So it's sufficiently vague because it's sufficiently vague to us. Basically, we don't know how we got the product. So somebody showed up out of the blue and purchased something without us ever having contacted them or ever having any relationship with them whatsoever.
Okay.
So it is. I guess the derogatory term is the marketing fairy.
Okay.
We put our tooth under our pillow and a customer came out the next day.
I will make sure that we change the slide from brand equity to marketing fairy.
Please.
So we have another question from the audience about the product portfolio. The question is, do we see all financial products a customer is holding, maybe from another financial services firm? That data is not included in the data set. We only have information from the data sponsor. Other product portfolios or share of wallet information is not included in this data set. Just simply not available. Okay, and I think we are ready to move on. So the next, here are the 4 data areas. Again, the customers, product ownership or portfolio information, the contacts and interactions, and the direct marketing. But there's also some opportunity for relationships, information, and being able to put these data sets together. For example, here is the customer age by contact channel, combining both data on the customers and the data on the contact. You'll see that the number of mobile interaction goes down as the person gets older, and the amount of internet goes up as the person gets older. We found that as an interesting relationship there. We also have, the number of products owned by industry. Those are those 5 industries that we saw early on, and we can see that the portfolio mix, the number of products, is roughly the same but slightly different between each of the different industries. Again, a little bit of connection there. And then we took a look at the count of interactions in the 10 weeks plus and minus a life event, a recorded life event. So here's one customer, customer X, the number of interactions that they had. We see a big spike in the 3rd week in T-3, and another spike at T+3 and T+9. But that's just one customer. In addition, here's a different customer, customer Y. And customer Y has a slightly different interactions, plus and minus 10 weeks on either side of the life event that was recorded. And if we add in a whole bunch of people, you can see that there's a whole mess. Everybody is different. And again, we have these individual data at the individual level. If we average it out amongst everyone in the sample that has a life event recorded, you can see that there's a bit of a bump on the weeks after, on average, than the weeks before. But I should point out that this is every single interaction, outbound and inbound, across every channel, every platform. There's lots more to investigate and questions and details for you to explore. And there's plenty of opportunity for pulling this apart and teasing out what the information might be. We have opportunity for a little bit more questions, if there are any, and we'll certainly answer them as they come in. So here's one question. I think we touched on it before. Robert, correct me if I get this wrong. The question is, what is the method you have adopted to collect information of life events? And as I understand, it is either on the call center or as on the website as they are in the process of doing something. They are the call center reps are scripted to ask, oh, you're applying for a mortgage. Are you moving? And things like that. Is that correct? That it's only on interaction and only with a question directed to the customer?
In some cases, yes, and in some cases, no. So with the interactions with this is Tom, by the way. In some cases, with the interaction with a customer service rep, they are actually there is actually like kind of a checkbox, and they will record that there was a specific life event through the questions that are asked and the interaction with that customer. And then in other cases, depending on how they interact with us digitally, there's some triggers that indicate that there's a life event also.
So there's basically forms that say, has blank occurred, and you could go fill something out.
So if they actually fill.
Go ahead.
Sorry, if they actually fill out an application for a home loan, we know that that's an indicator for a potential home buying event,
right?
Which is a pretty significant life event.
Yeah, and we have other times we find it out on an application for something else entirely, not even necessarily something moving. So they may be purchasing a car and they list a different occupation or list a different address than that they had, that we already have on the system. So it could show up on
Yes, or the addition of a child.
Updating their Go ahead.
The child life rider on life insurance. They had a baby.
Yeah.
Right.
Or change of dependent or anything else like that. Yeah.
Great. We have another question of how complete is the data set? Are there some observations with many missing values, or is each record per customer complete? As I understand, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, we have, for these roughly 100,000 people, we have all of the information on contacts and interactions that you have on those 100,000 people. We didn't omit or skip any particular kind or any. The data is a full picture of what they interacted with you during the window.
Yes, it's a pretty extensive set of contact information, business process history information, and customer demographic information.
Right, because one thing we didn't mention up to now, it's also changes in demographics. Those are recorded. Those life events are detailed there.
Yes.
Okay, so another question is, and Robert, maybe I'll answer, and then you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Do customers pay fees to use this service? If yes, what is the pricing structure? So this is a financial services company. They offer that range of products that we saw before, including automobile insurance, traditional banking like passbook savings and checking accounts, the insurance of different kinds, and different other services. Each product line has its own structure for fees and costs, such as the premium you might pay for automobile insurance, and I don't believe that the pricing structure is included in the data set for all the different kinds of products. So the cost to the customer is not necessarily included in here. Is that
then you're correct.
accurate?
Pricing structure is not included in the.
And it's different for every single product line.
Absolutely, different for every product.
Great. Okay. This is an interesting question. And Tom, maybe you can answer this one. When do you start tracking the customers? From the first day that they purchased a product, or before then? When do they become a customer?
We start tracking them for the first time that we know about them as a prospect.
Okay, so anytime that they've either you find out about them, or they hear, or they visit the website and say, send me more information, or at any point in the prospect.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, if they're a prospect and they're not a customer, they're not going to have a heck of a lot of interactions with us, so there's not going to be a lot to track.
Right. Okay. I would like to. Great, that's fantastic. I would like to remind everyone who's watching now that this webinar is recorded, so you'll be able to go back and listen to this at any point. The slides will be available. And there's lots of other questions, and unfortunately we just simply don't have time to answer them all. But in the course of the webinar, however, we will respond to every single question via email as quickly as we can. So please don't worry. Also, if you have additional questions after this, you'll be able to submit questions to us, and we'll be happy to answer them if it will help your proposal. So let's move on just a little bit, just remembering again, what are the key research questions? How can we accurately predict these life changes before they occur? And how can we detect them that they've already happened? They just haven't been recorded yet. But as I mentioned at the top, those aren't the only questions that the sponsor is interested in. We want to know, what questions would you answer with a data set like this? Please do not be limited to these questions. We're interested in all sorts of interesting ones. So why should you participate in this research opportunity? Well, you'll get access to a unique data set. This kind of data, this rich and detailed data set is not available anywhere else. You'll get assistance from WCAI in cleaning, preparation, documenting, and processing the data at any point during the research opportunity. There's several teleconference Q&A sessions with the sponsor, so you'll be able to get specific and detailed questions like the ones we've been talking about in answers. You'll also be able to present your findings to the corporate sponsor at a closing symposium to be held here at Wharton about a year from now. Should like to note that participants in the research opportunity, at least one member of the team is required to physically be here to present. So that'll be sometime fall 2014. We also have the opportunity for additional PR for your research. We'd like to promote what our researchers are doing. In addition to press and white papers, we also promote your research through the WCAI SSRN Research Paper Series. But in order to participate, you'll need to submit a proposal. The proposal format should be no more than 2,000 words and include the following: title, authors, a summary information, like a single slide that visually summarizes the team and the project, an abstract, an introduction, a detailed project proposal, and biographies. Please don't forget biographies. Please feel free to, if you're using a model, to include a sketch of the model. We also want to know for you to cite relevant work as necessary to explain your academic contribution. However, we do not need to include a lengthy literature review. Proposals will be submitted on the website, so please, PDFs only. If you want to read more about the proposal format, that's listed there on the website, wharton.upenn.edu/WCAI-proposals.cfm. You please submit the proposals no later than Monday, December 9th at 12 noon U.S. Eastern Time. Again, proposals will be only accepted online, and we want one PDF containing both the written portion and the single slide. The proposals will be evaluated for academic contribution and potential to significantly improve the research sponsor's marketing practice, and you can see the names of the people who will be reviewing there from Columbia, Emory, WCAI, and representatives of the research sponsor. If you have any questions about the proposal, about the process, about the data content, please feel free to reach out to this email address, wcairesearch@wharton.upenn.edu, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. If this data set doesn't look like it is ideal for you, we have other ones coming up, including electronic word of mouth and product reviews for a major specialty retailer. We have matching players in online games and social TV coming up in early 2014. In addition, we have a conference scheduled, the State of the Industry for Analytics, on May 1st, 2014. If you're on our distribution list, you'll hear more about that in the coming months. You can also find us, the SSRN Research Paper Series, at the link there. And any announcements at all, we keep our website pretty up to date there. We're also on Twitter, on Facebook, and encourage you to reach out. Thank you for all of your questions. Robert, Tom, thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing your research and your proposals. Thank you very much.